members.
Well, thank you, Randy. And I think the one thing that I think my litany of background demonstrates is I still haven't figured out what I want to be when I grow up. So I start collecting my Navy retirement when I turn 60, which is in about 4 years. So I have to figure that out sometime between now and then, because I figure after I turn 60, I guess I officially become grown up. So, that being said, Randy, thanks for the opportunity to speak to the chamber, and I'm coming to you in my role as the chair of the board of directors for the North Carolina Outdoor Recreation Coalition, and kind of I'm going to share my screen. I have just a few slides for speaking points, and happy to share that with anyone who wants it. But the information here is just really meant to hopefully bring some awareness to members of the chamber who may not know about the outdoor recreation industry in the state of North Carolina, and the quite honestly the impact, the economic impact it has, in our state, as well as our nation. It is a pretty impactful industry segment that has gone somewhat unnoticed for many years, and just recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, has been included as a satellite account in the Bureau of Labor and Statistics in GDP calculations. So kind of what I want to go over with you here. Let's see what's going on here. Why is my screen? Oh, there we go. Just a little delay. So today I want to talk about just a little bit about who the Outdoor Recreation Coalition is, what our mission is, what we're doing, and kind of a little bit about us, so that you can learn more about it. And if you're interested in joining, check it out and consider supporting us. But also I want to talk a little bit about the economic impact of outdoor recreation in our state, as well as some really phenomenal successes we had with the state budget that was just recently passed and signed by Governor Cooper. As I think many of you know, this is the first time we've had a budget, an actual signed, authorized budget in almost 4 years. So, and we're very successful as an industry to get some significant wins in that budget. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then I'll answer any questions people have. So the Outdoor Recreation Coalition is North Carolina's trade association for the outdoor recreation industry. We're focused on providing a unified voice for the industry in the state of North Carolina, with our primary target being the state General Assembly and the executive branch of our state government. But we also have, we also work, do things at the federal level and focus our messaging sometimes to people who are, to our representatives and senators in Congress. We're primarily made up of companies and organizations with interest in outdoor recreation. And you don't necessarily have to be an outdoor recreation industry company organization. We feel that outdoor recreation is a force multiplier for all industries in the state. And so we encourage anyone who sees the power and the value of outdoor recreation in our economy to consider being a part of our trade association. So our mission and visions there is pretty straightforward. We serve our industry by advocating on behalf of our state's thriving outdoor recreation economy, and our vision is to become a leading sector in the state, as well as a recognized preeminent outdoor recreation economy in the eastern United States. I mean, I think many of you know there's a lot of outdoor recreation in the western part of our country, and a lot of the western part of our country gets a lot of recognition for outdoor recreation, especially in the Rocky Mountain regions and in other parts of the West. But the entire country has a phenomenal outdoor recreation infrastructure, and North Carolina is one of the leading ones in the eastern part of the country. So one of our primary focuses is really, and our genesis of the organization came from the creation of the North Carolina Outdoor Recreation Industry Office. This was included in legislation back in 2017 and was authorized to begin in January of 2018. The office is currently filled by Amy Allison, and it's housed in the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. She's part of the business development team, and she also focuses on areas related to not only economic development, but also areas of workforce development, conservation and stewardship, and public health and wellness. And one of our roles as a trade association, and kind of when Senator Rick Gunn, who was one of the leading advocates for creating this position, when we as an industry were asking for this to happen, he said, well, you guys need to create something to support this office and speak on behalf of the industry in your state. So that was kind of the genesis of our organization, was the creation of this office with the idea that we would be kind of a voice and advocate for this government position. Some of our key policy areas, as I already mentioned, we really work on behalf of the outdoor recreation industry office in talking to the General Assembly. And one of the things that I'll mention in a little while is working on this idea of an outdoor recreation action plan and outdoor recreation asset map that not only will benefit the outdoor recreation industry, but will benefit a lot of other industries and a lot of economic development organizations throughout the state. We also advocate for funding for new workforce development programs. We help support advocating for state park funding, and well as conservation funding through things like the Land and Water Fund to help what we call the outdoor recreation infrastructure. You know, when you think of infrastructure, you think of roads and bridges and transportation hubs and stuff like that. Well, outdoor recreation has its own infrastructure, and that's the trails and the streams and the lakes and everything that we rely on to go out and enjoy the outdoors. So you can learn more about our organization. I put the link to our website in the chat box, and you can check that out. And I'll also send you the link to the outdoor recreation page for EDPNC, and you can see some of the things that is going on there. If you have any questions regarding OREC or want to consider possibly joining, feel free to reach out to us. You can either contact our organization through our info email, or you can contact me directly, and I can chat with you about how you could become involved. So the next thing on my agenda, and I don't have a whole lot to talk about it, so I have lots of information here. I just wanted to share this information, and then we can, if you have questions specific, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. But in November of this year, the Bureau of Statistics released their annual GDP numbers and information on the various satellite accounts. And one of the satellite accounts is on outdoor recreation. And so what we discovered, now there was, obviously the pandemic impacted our economy greatly and did impact many aspects of our economy. As I see, I think I see Jessica on here. I think she could speak to the impact that it had just on tourism. So there was, the numbers in 2020 were lower than the numbers in 2019, but nevertheless, when you look at the United States, the contribution to GDP was close to $375 billion, or almost 2% of our national GDP, which is for those who understand that the breakdown of GDP, 2% is a pretty significant chunk of our GDP. It employs over 4 million people. And then when you think about personal expenditures and what people are spending on things related to outdoor recreation, between both goods and services, it's close to $800 billion nationwide. In North Carolina alone, we're close to a $10 billion contribution to GDP, or about 1.7% of our state's GDP. And when you look at us compared to other states, we're ranked 10th in the U.S. for contribution to state GDP as measured by dollars. Now, when you're measured by percentage of state GDP, we're ranked a lot lower, and mainly just because of how GDP is calculated in various different states and the size of states. Obviously, states like California and New York and Texas have a much larger GDP than we have. But then you also have states like Maine, who maybe has a smaller GDP, so their portion of outdoor recreation maybe makes up a larger percentage of that. So different ways to look at that, but still significant. Again, close to 2% of our state GDP is can be accounted for by outdoor recreation. 120, almost 124,000 jobs in our state. So the bottom line here is outdoor recreation is a significant part of our state's economy. And you look at just in 2020, there was a 15% increase in personal expenditures on recreational goods and vehicles. That's people going out and buying camping equipment, RV. You know, if you were trying to buy a new bicycle in 2020 or 2021, you know that's almost next to impossible because of all the supply chain issues that we're having. So, you know, on the negative side, you know, some of the contributions to the numbers related to tourism and like lodging and restaurants and stuff like that also feed into that number. But on the positive side, people were buying gear and getting outdoors and enjoying themselves in outdoor recreation. So definitely with all the negatives we have with the pandemic, some of the good things that came out of it was people were getting outdoors and maybe getting some good wellness and healthy lifestyle improvements. And then finally, the last thing I want to kind of talk about is just the recent successes we had for outdoor recreation in our North Carolina state budget, and something that I think as a chamber and chamber members and local government, we should be familiar. We should be aware of what's going on. On the outdoor recreation industry office side, you know, we had put into the budget not only language that increases the responsibility of the director's office to not only focus on economic development, but also focus on these other areas that came from a confluence of all states who are that came together to create what they called the Accords of Outdoor Recreation. So there's 4 pillars: conservation and stewardship, education, workforce training, economic development, and public health and wellness. So her office is now more codified to really, you know, still primarily focused on economic development, but she has some bandwidth now that allows her to work across executive departments at the state level to address things that impact the industry. But she's also been tasked with creating a final kind of overarching outdoor recreation action plan, as well as the creation of the first ever comprehensive mapping tool. And the idea of this mapping tool is really to you know, catalog and identify all our state's outdoor recreational assets, whether they're locally county-owned, state-owned, federally managed, and have that in a database so that economic developers, businesses who are looking to move to Airy and are interested in making sure that there's outdoor recreational facilities or assets available for their employees to use. This will become a map not only for helping with economic development, but it also can become a map for us looking at where we might have shortages and where we could put some resources to build up some outdoor recreation assets in like underserved areas or areas that don't have the recreational infrastructure that they probably should have because of where they're located. So this is going to be a really powerful tool that not only will be able to use at the state level, but local communities will be able to use as well, like Mount Airy. And then when you get into the outdoor recreation infrastructure, this is really exciting. Almost over $500 million in new funding. And this is massive. And we haven't seen levels of funding like this in our state budget for outdoor recreation infrastructure in probably a decade. And this includes funding for new parks, greenways, and open spaces, funding for the Park Recreation Trust Fund. And this money in the trust fund is going to be split between not only state level projects, but can be also used by local governments to facilitate or fund local parks and outdoor recreational assets. And then you have things like improving, they're adding funds to the line of water fund and do things like stream restoration. As many of you know, we have two rivers that go through our community that not only provide us with our fresh water, but also are great attractions for fishermen to come to and enjoy fishing in Mount Airy. So that's, you know, always improving our stream restoration is a valuable thing for us in Mount Airy. And then there's this thing called the Complete the Trails Fund. And this is money that will allow for completion of trails like the Mountain to Sea Trail. There's a lot of the Mountain to Sea Trail, including parts within Surry County, that aren't actually in a trailed or wooded area. They actually walk, and there's parts of the Mountain Sea Trail that if you're hiking it, you're hiking along Route 268 in Surry County and not actually on a trail. So this will be money. This is just a start. It's initial funding, but this is a fund that's going to be continually funded to allow us to continue to expand upon our trails in the state of North Carolina. And then the creation of 2 new state park units that will have, that not only, you know, people within the state of North Carolina can use, but can be also used to bring people into the state of North Carolina to visit and add to our outdoor recreation economy impact. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with everyone, and happy to answer any questions on that. I saw one question came on here. Does the recent fire on Pilot Mountain impact your organization in any way? Well, the fire obviously was very impactful to us as a community, and very sad and devastating. It doesn't impact the organization, but our organization is aware of it. And matter of fact, being in the chair, I had our marketing person, you know, post on our social media pages, you know, the information about the fire, and also about there was some local fundraising efforts to support that. Obviously, we're more focused on making sure that we're getting funding for the entire state, but obviously, and then Pilot Mountain being a state park, that fits in that realm of things that we're definitely advocating for. And then here's another question. Does your group assist local governments with grant writing for outdoor recreation expansion? Unfortunately, we do not have the ability to support that. We are still a very nascent organization. We're primarily a group of volunteers all working at in a kind of a board level organization. We've just recently hired part-time a marketing person to help us with our communication efforts. And we're continuing to try to raise funds so that we can get to the point where we can start bringing on an executive director. I don't see us doing that, helping with assisting with grant writing in our work now, but that, you know, we may evolve down the road. I can't say whether we will or not. But right now, our focus is on speaking on behalf of the industry at the state level and developing relationships with our state reps and state senators.
Dave, that's great, good stuff there. And I think, you know, David and I have talked on this topic before, and I know Jessica Roberts is connected in here as well, is many people believe that, you know, this region, obviously tourism is a huge industry here, and many people may look at it as maybe being really the only focus, but I think I have learned over the years, as I know, and with the help of Jessica and Dave, your group as well, is that the outdoor assets that we have in this part of North Carolina bring a lot of people here. If unless I'm wrong on the numbers, and Dave might know them or Jessica, is that Pilot Mountain is only the Pilot Mountain State Park is one of only a handful of state parks in the state of North Carolina that attract over 1 million visitors a year. I think I'm right on that. So I mean, the rivers, the fishing, the outdoors, the camping, and all the other associated industries are a big part of what we have here in Surry County and really the whole Triad region. But you know, we appreciate Dave, that insight. I would encourage everyone to jump on that website or send we have Dave's email in the chat as well. You know, feel free to reach out to Dave. I didn't mention it, but Dave is right here in Mount Airy. So, you know, he's easy to get a hold of. As we're closing here on the speaking part of it, I didn't know whether, Jessica, did you want to add anything to the discussion of the impact on the outdoor recreation thing, or Todd Tucker's on the line as well. And you all want to jump on board here to add what Dave's talked about?
Yes, it shows I'm Todd Tucker right now, but we're both here watching. But obviously, the impact of outdoor recreation has been very significant, very huge for our area. And we have worked quite closely with Dave to redevelop our Surry Scenic Bikeway website as well, to make it more interactive, to engage the visitors. But we are lucky to have Pilot Mountain State Park, our greenways, all the resources that we have here that really do lure not only visitors, but locals, and then also those who are looking to relocate, start a business here, retire. It's a huge part of economic development in our tourism numbers. And I'll pass it over to Todd, see if he has anything to add.
Good morning, everybody. Jessica's right, and Dave's right. We talk about outdoor recreation, and it's important to us in several facets. One, what Jessica and they just talked about is attracting people to Surry County. People will come here and see the beauty, see all the activities we have to do, and potentially may decide to move here, live here, buy a home here of some sort. So helping increase our population is important. And then a lot of those people may be business owners, or they may start a business, may be entrepreneurial and want to start a business. So that's important in bringing people to Surry County for those particular reasons. But then the other side of it is the existing companies that we already have here that are involved in the outdoor recreation industry. And a lot of that may not be as apparent to a lot of us, but company that Dave used to work for, like Nestor Hosiery, with their Farm to Feet brand, that's primarily geared towards hiking and hikers, and they sell a lot of that, and it's always at all the outdoor shows we go to and the outdoor retailers we go to. Then there's a company called Rustic Teardrop Campers in Pilot Mountain that makes small teardrop sized trailers that people use to go camping. Harris Leather and Silverworks, obviously makes saddles for horses and horseback riding and things of that nature. And then we have a fishing lure company. It's a small entrepreneurial fishing lure company that makes lures for deep sea fishing and other types of fishing. So we have a couple of companies in Mount Airy and in the greater Surry County that kind of participate in that outdoor recreation field. That's one of their niches that they sell to. So it's from a person side, getting people here, and also from a company side. It's important to Surry County for that.
There was another question that came up, Dave. Is conservation a part of your role, and do you support the changes for global warming?
So one of the things that, conservation is an important part of what we are focused on. Again, conservation plays into the idea of not only maintaining our outdoor recreation infrastructure, but also, adding to it. And quite honestly, tangentially to that is this idea of climate resiliency and the impacts that we see throughout the state due to climate change. One of the things that recently came out in the last couple of years was the governor's climate resiliency action plan, and there's a whole section on there on natural areas and using nature as a way to build up climate resiliency. That includes making green areas, looking at areas that are prone to flooding and turning those into, instead of having residential areas, they're turning those into recreational areas that have less impact if they were to be flooded. So there's a lot of crossover between building a better outdoor recreational infrastructure and combating climate change, especially in the realms of climate resiliency. Obviously, the more trees and greenery we have, the better ways we can absorb carbon out of the atmosphere. Our state has, believe it or not, most of our wooded areas in the state are privately owned and not publicly owned. But is there a way to work with private landowners to have them be a part of this outdoor recreational infrastructure to maintain trees and greenery? I mean, I was saddened when I drove up Wards Gap Road recently up towards Orchard Gap, and all the trees there just before you get to Levering Orchard are now gone. I mean, they're just gone.
Right.
And I can understand reasons for that. They could have been, I don't know what their age were, and I don't know if there was a fire risk to keep them there or not. But still, we need to look at ways to, when trees are going, when trees are getting too old, we have ways to replace them and keeping a forest cover so that we can not only have places to go and enjoy the outdoors, but also have that ability to absorb carbon out of the atmosphere. So yeah, I guess the long answer to your question, we do support conservation. But there's a lot of great groups in North Carolina that are doing that, and so we work alongside with them. We work with them and tag along, and hopefully help bring that business voice to why conservation is so important to the state of North Carolina. I did want to add to.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
want to add something to you said, Randy, and something that Todd said. One of the things as leaders in our community, we when people are coming here looking at our community and checking it out. We've taken to things like downtown Mount Airy. We take them to a winery. We take them to one of our breweries, or any other one of our great assets that we have here. We need to make sure, if we're not already doing that, we need to make sure that we're taking them to Pilot Mountain State Park, or we're taking them on the Greenway, or we're find out what kind of activities they like to do, and maybe engage them in that activity. If you're not able to do it, contact me. I'm happy to take anyone on a bike ride, on a hike. I'll even get a fishing pole and try to figure out how to fish. I haven't done that in 40 years, but nonetheless, in the town of Brevard, North Carolina, which I'm sure we're all familiar with, Oscar Blues, the founder of Oscar Blues, came to North Carolina on vacation. He's an avid mountain cyclist and went mountain biking in Brevard, North Carolina, near Pisgah National Forest. Fell in love with the place, bought a lot there. And that's why Oscar Blues Brewing set up their East Coast operations in North Carolina, because he wanted to be able to go mountain biking in North Carolina. And he has a single track that goes right outside the brewery. People now come there and park their car, go mountain biking, and at the end of the mountain biking, stop at the Oscar Blues and get a drink and maybe get some food from the food truck that's there. So there's power in having great outdoor recreational assets, and there's also power in sharing with visitors what our assets are. You never know, that may be a deciding
Absolutely.
factor